So what have I here? It's Sunday evening, and instead of just relaxing and watching television, I have such a lot of work to do that customers keep bringing their trees to me to refine. This is a Chinese juniper that I sold this customer maybe about 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's one of these Itiogawa junipers, and it's grown so healthily. You can see how healthy the foliage is. And it's got a beautiful twisted trunk in there. It needs to be refined a bit. And it's literally what we call a blob. Absolute blob. What can I say? So just remember what the image is like as of today. And we will try and change it just with a pair of scissors. So I'm going to work on this. I'm self-videoing because everyone's gone home now. So I'm going to work on this and we will see a transformation. So let's look at this juniper. It's too round in shape for me and the pads have become so thick and dense. This tree is 55 centimeters tall from the bottom of the pot, that means from the floor level, not above the pot, from the bottom of the pot to the tip. So, as I say, it's not a small tree. So from here to there is 55 centimeter and it's about 50 centimeter almost wide. So, I'm going to just do the pruning using scissors to begin with. So, let me show you what I will do. I will reduce the lower pads just by going inside the structure and thinning it. So I will let me see if I can get a better view. I'm going to start with the bottom left pad. So I'm going to start around here. So with the scissors I'm taking bits like this off, okay? So let me begin. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go inside the structure and literally try and reduce the height of the pad. Let me remind you that when you work with junipers, you never shear off the foliage like that. You got to go inside the twig and prune into the wood like so. So that's what we're doing. We're finding the woody bits and take the woody bits off. So we're taking off woody bits like that. So the object is to reduce the height of the pad. This is the customer's label. Let me take it off. This task needs to be done right through the year. You can't leave it for 5 or 6 years and then get into it. You can, but it becomes more difficult to sort out once it becomes so dense. You also get a lot of dye back because it's so dense. So I hope you can see what I have done already. If you look closely, you see the depth of the pad has certainly been reduced compared to this blob here. You see how blobby that is? So I've reduced this almost by 2/3 to get it flat. So that's what I did. So the amount I've removed is that much. All that has come off in literally half a minute. I'm not used to working from behind because usually when my cameraman is here, they view it from the back. But because I want to see in the camera what I'm doing, I've got the camera set up like this and I've got to work from the back. So that's that pad down. Now let's look at some of these other pads. Let me take the downward pointing foliage first. Now let me go to this pad. And this is another big blobby. Look at it. Such a thick blob. So again, go into the structure and reduce it. I notice there's some wire that's biting in. They should have removed it. Well, whatever this customer has done, she's fed it well, so it's ever so healthy, too healthy in fact. So vigorous and lush and green. Quite a few bits of wire that needs to be taken out. So we're just reducing the depth of the pad. This is the first bit of the tidying up. So you can see how I reduced the depth of that one. This is still a blob here. So I got that pad reduced a bit. There are so many pads. Okay, let's look at this pad. This is another thick one. There's a bit here that I think I'm going to use the branch cutter to remove some of them. So you can see how these lower pads have been flattened out almost simply by pruning. Simply by pruning. Of course, if you leave these blobs for too long, the light won't penetrate and you will get dieback eventually. Ideally, a tree like this needs to be not just pruned but rewired. Usually work like this, it depends how much time they're prepared to allow me and the cost as well, because when you think that a tree like this could take a day or more to prune and wire, I think she just wanted me to simply prune it, which is what I'm doing. And I will show you, simply by pruning it, you will get a very pleasing effect. So you can see how the pads have become more flat, no longer like a blob. I'm just going to alter the camera angle a bit, so bear with me. So let's look at it again. I hope you can see that the blobby effect has been remedied to a large extent. Anything hanging down, of course, I just take off. I have to bear in mind that the overall dome shape or conical shape has still to be observed. See, these downward pointing branches do nothing. You want to leave space between branches, space between alternate pads. See, can you see the space I've created now? It's still very much like a blob. So I'm going to tackle this part now, this blob over here. And there's a blob in the front as well. The self-videoing is a bit tricky, difficult. So let me show you. I've done this pad. So I can use a piece of paper. I'll show you. You see, that's the pad I've thinned out. So you can see the space between branches, which is gradually being restored. This is all I prune off. I'll show you afterwards. It's on the table. I've already taken about, I would say, half the foliage out. It's become so dense. It's like going to a good hairdresser. Style and cut. If you go to a good London hairdresser, you pay over £200, I was told. I have one or two glamorous friends who spend that to have their hair done. You can now see that lovely trunk. Can you see the lovely trunk? Ah, the sun is shining. So I've only spent a few minutes, but it's having the vision, if we can call it that, to see what we're trying to achieve. Now let me just go up a little more, tilt the tree up a little bit, and see what we're going to do. So those pads have been flattened. So we've got to deal with this blob here, this blobby bit. Anything hanging down comes off. So you can see the pads, they're flattened. No longer are they in blobs. We've got through half the tree. Let me take a break. So there's that tree. You can now see the trunk. And by reducing the pads, you can see more of the trunk higher up. Very important to see the trunk. If you can't see the trunk, then it's just a bush. Fundamental principle of bonsai. See the trunk. Let's proceed further up. Further up you go, it becomes more tricky because you want to create a dome shape without sacrificing the overall effect. I know it has to be apical rather than one thin branch sticking out, but I mustn't scalp it so much. So the top part is slightly different. I'm not just making it flat, I have to create a dome at the top. There you are. I'm going to home in on the top now. Working from the back is not always easy, but I will do that. You see, I've created a space there. Let's work on this side now. So it's going into the structure and selectively thinning it. Selectively thin first, and then we will bother about creating the pads. So what you will realize is just by using scissors, you can restore the tree to a more pleasing shape without having to rewire, restyle completely. See, I'm opening out the top. The top is still like a blob. Oh, nice. It's 4:30 in the afternoon and the sun is shining bright. Look at the shadow. We had hailstones and it's very, very cold. The temperature today is about 3 or 4 degrees. There's a lot of dead in there. Pardon me if I can't show you what I'm doing, because I'm working from the back. That's why when I have a cameraman, the camera is standing behind my back and videoing, but I want to see what I'm doing in the camera, because I'm literally self-videoing. I need to see what a cameraman would see. Now that the sun is shining bright, look at the tree. Look at this tree. Can you see the difference? We can now see the pads. This is just working with the scissors. No wiring, no sleight of hand. So I'm just selectively pruning alternate branches so that there are no ugly gaps. the front. Can you see I've opened out the front as well? I'm now going to stop the camera and hand hold the camera so I can show you much more. So I'm now holding the camera. I'll show you the amount I've pruned off. The sun is shining. Look at all that. Just pruning with the scissor. All that was pruned off in the last 10-15 minutes. So that is the tree. Let me get another angle. This is my living room, by the way, come office. And if you compare it with the earlier image where it was just a blob, you can compare what I have done. So you can now see the trunk again. I haven't pruned any branches off. They're just tips that I've taken off. So that is all I would do, and now I'm going to repot this tree. So simply by using the scissors, I can restore it to this type of image. Don't ask me how I think, but I think you can get the gist of it. Flattening the pads and letting light into the structure, keeping it a nice dome shape. And I'm now going to brush the trunk up after repotting the tree. I will show you what the final image will be like. That I will do tomorrow. So that is enough for now. So this is the final shot of the juniper. You can see that the branches are now clearly visible, the trunk is visible, and I did have a repot of the tree because it was quite pot bound, and since it only comes once every, was it 3 or 4 years, I thought I might as well do it for this dear customer of mine. I haven't gone too mad with the top because the top should be full, but it was important to show the definition and the spaces between the branches. So there you go.